I don't know if all of you noticed, but it was a fairly jarring statistic to see. I generally don't love doing ratings talk. I think it's pretty silly, but I was a little floored by a women's game between Iowa and Louisville because I think it's because Caitlin Clark is like this amazing thing. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's just the entirety of Final Four competition and people being excited. But there's a woman playing college sports that is clearly a star, and the ratings for a game that wasn't even a finals game between Iowa and Louisville were better than any NBA game on ESPN. And when we talk about how you reconstruct the sports and the power of the players, and players might fear future consequences, I don't think we should only think about what men can do to change the power imbalances of sports, because this content is about to become really valuable. Because after many years of trying to advance women's sports, college basketball, a game that wasn't a championship game, has done better than any NBA game on ESPN this year. That is not a small value. That's a giant value.
Major value. Drew 2.5 million viewers that game. Incredible. I mean, it's amazing. And I think it has to do with the star power in that game, but the overall growth of that sport in particular. Women's college basketball.
But that's crazy. Like, if I said at any point, if I had said to you, not a championship game with a storyline that you would necessarily recognize that was whatever. There's infamy there. There's controversy. Whatever needs to happen, that doesn't seem like a blip to me. You've got a season's worth of NBA games on ESPN, and now you got a college basketball game that seems like there are a lot of people that aren't being paid attention to by the people who cover ratings, by the people who talk about how much ratings matter, because those are valuable eyeballs, and I would say they have to kind of be new eyeballs, like 20 years new or 30 years new, that sport is clearly and obviously growing in a way that I'm not sure is being covered the way it's growing.
It's not that long ago, probably less than a couple years, that you couldn't watch early rounds of the women's NCAA tournament on ESPN. They weren't even all televised on the regular cable network. So I think it's an accumulation of a number of things, but the biggest thing being that if you put the games on TV, people will watch them. And if you put especially the early rounds on and build momentum for a Final Four game or an Elite Eight game, which the Louisville-Iowa game was, you're going to have more people tune in. It's a pretty simple formula. And there's also, if you're someone that watches a lot of college hoops, there's storylines that go into it. Louisville's a really good women's basketball program. Iowa comes from, Kate and I did an entire podcast about Iowa girls basketball that's going to come out next week. So people should stay tuned for that. But Iowa is a major state for women's and girls and youth basketball. So they're selling out the arenas there, and that's not a surprise for anyone that comes from Iowa. It's incredibly popular. They've had 6-on-6 tournaments in Iowa that were selling, thousands of tickets decades and decades ago. So it's really just recently that, people have been able to actually watch it on TV. And so you're seeing the returns on that. And especially Caitlin Clark, like you said, is a star. Haley Van Lith, who plays for Louisville, is a really popular player in college basketball. On the other side of the rest of the games this weekend, you have LSU, who has one of the only women's basketball coaches, Kim Mulkey, who's won multiple championships, that's coaching right now. You have Dawn Staley, who is obviously a legend, won last year, National Player of the Year on their team, Aaliyah Boston. Their team is huge. They're all 6'5" or taller. They have an incredible defense. So there's all these storylines, but at the core of it, it's really good basketball. So if fans like sports, there's not really a big difference between if it's women or men playing. You're watching a really, really good basketball, and you actually can now.
So to add on to that,
$5.
Sorry.
Yep.
To add on, I don't have a call button.
Says yup, he doesn't pay it. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Where's the $5? You need to stop and give the $5 because it's $5 to.
I don't have any change.
Want me to check?
You got some change?
You owe me $5 from last week.
No, I didn't. I paid you 10.
$6 if you don't have the money,
Oh,
just because you're borrowing the money. You don't. Oh, there it is.
It's a 20. I don't.
Okay, put the 20 on here. You owe $5. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, see, the way you worded it, the way we worded it, is that Iowa Louisville beat every NBA game on ESPN this year, and that's true. And we try to find reasons or links from Iowa or Louisville, but the reality is every single Elite Eight game other than Miami LSU beat every NBA game on ESPN this year. Ohio State versus Virginia Tech pulled 2.23 million. South Carolina versus Maryland pulled 2.16 million. The highest NBA game on ESPN this year, March 5th, Knicks Celtics drew 2.14 million. And then the next highest after that was Nuggets Golden State opening week, 1.9 million. So they didn't just beat the NBA ratings on ESPN. They smoked them. They smoked them 3 out of 4 games.
Well, what does that tell us about interest? Like I told you, I don't like talking ratings, and FAU Miami will be a disaster for the sport, a disaster for the men's side of the sport if
$2 more.
It doesn't.
Lean back. What am I supposed to do?
Why is it $2 more?
I don't know.
Can I just say that I think it's hilarious that Miami made a Final Four, and for whatever reason, the national media has declared it's like the worst Final Four
That's
in
right.
history.
I mean, that's correct.
Whatever
Can
reason.
we
It's
roll around in
Miami
that
and
for a minute?
FAU.
It's typical
San
Miami
Diego
hate.
State.
That's what it is, Dan.
Nance is
have a
going
tip-off
straight
first?
to Butler Cabin. I mean,
Typical Miami hate.
NCAA hates Miami.
Exactly.